Well, it's Tuesday Wrestling, and we all know what that means. Today is September 13th. We get to review NWA Powerrr, AEW Dark, and of course, celebrating the 1 year anniversary of NXT 2.0. But also, we're going to be reviewing two events back to back from Circle 6, which features who is now the very first ever Circle 6 World Champion. And of course, we got some news updates to tell about what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So, let's begin with the first day of Circle 6, which is called The Catalyst. This was on the 9th of September. I believe this was in Detroit, Michigan, from my understanding. This one, of course, features the first ever Circle 6 World Champion in a hybrid ladder match with four competitors. And I'll explain when we get there in a bit about that. But as we know, we start from the beginning all the way to the end. First up, we have 440, consistent of Bobby Beverly, Eddie Only, and Eric Ryan, taking on Jeff Cannonball and Puff, and a mystery partner of their choosing. That mystery partner was none other than Nate Webb. And of course, the whole crowd was going ballistic, enjoying it. And I thought this match was pretty good because, of course, the bigger threat to 440 is Nate Webb. So they did an excellent job, tried to isolate either Puff or Cannonball away from Nate Webb because 440 don't want nothing to do with them. But it did not do any well because it was, of course, Nate Webb that picked up the victory when he actually took out with his finisher Eddie Only. Nate Webb won the match. Next up, we got Ashton Day versus Brian Keith. Now, the bounty hunter, you know how that is. Apparently, from my understanding, Ashton Day, he's been coming around in Circle 6 for quite some time. But facing with the bounty hunter, you know how's that going to end. The bounty hunter does the emerald driver. 1, 2, 3. He wins, tips his hat, and rides off to the sunset. Next up, we got a tag team action. We got Infrared, Logan James and Tyler Matrix to take on the Premier, Campbell Myers and SK Bishop. Now, I have to say the match was pretty good. However, much of the momentum was going through, of course, Infrared. I did not anticipate that a lot because, Infrared, I've seen them mostly on the Wrestling Revolver, but they pick up a good win with the double Dragon double top. I think that's what they call it. And they won in that fashion. So picked up a very nice win on this one. Now our next match is a blunt force trauma death match. We have Otis Cougar taking on Hoodfoot. Now in this type of match, the idea how it goes, it has to be done by either basically you have to use whatever blunt objects you can use, like chairs, tables. It has to be right in the head. But it was Otis who picked up the win by pinning a Hoodfoot. But however, he got attacked from behind by Vinny Masario, a guy that he's been dealing with, and of course, disrespecting his family. So Vinny's been causing nothing but problems. He will deal with them the following day. Next up, we got women's action. We got Zoe Sky versus Heather Reckless. I thought this match was pretty good but the thing is, they only had one women's match. I don't know why they had that, but it was pretty good. I think I enjoyed it. But it was Zoe Sky who picked up an amazing victory. I was a bit biased on this one, but I was impressed with Zoe Sky picking up the win. Next up, we got tag team action. We got Aussie Open, um, Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis taking on Alex Zane. Did not know he's been making appearances there, but this also was the debut of All Night Long. That's right, Rich Swann makes his debut. I thought this match was incredible. You know, this is one of those good matches, but however, Alex Zane ended up on the Coriolis by Aussie Open. But I have to say, this is one of the best matches I've seen. Now, our next match is a number one contenders match. We have, oh, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Kevin Giza taking on Bandito. This match was amazing too because this will determine who's going to face the winner of the who becomes the inaugural champion will face the following day in Cleveland, Ohio, which is, of course, Acticus Coger's hometown. But the match kind of went amazing. Now, this match, in what the commentator says, which I believe it was true, Giza would have had this match won in his favor if it wasn't for a guy named Vincent Nothing. Now, Vincent Nothing, from my understanding, has a problem with Giza, believing that Giza was giving the much better opportunities more than him. So he felt that he was being overlooked. So he decided, I'm going to take my frustrations out on you. But it did give Bandito the opportunity to win the match using the 21 guns, whatever. And boom, he becomes the new number one contender. Now our main event is for the Circle 6 World Title. This one is called a hybrid ladder match. Now, this is something that Ricky Shane Page, RSP, talks about, saying that this particular match was thought about years ago, where each of the competitors will have a distinctive color in their ladder. So you have to use that ladder in order to win. That's how it is. Like in the previous ladder matches we see in the past, we normally see, okay, you just grab whatever ladder is available. But in this one, it's more like, okay, you are in fact wearing a color. Like RSP in this particular was white. We had Acticus Coger yellow. Chris, Jake Chris orange, and of course Zachary Wentz pink. So each of them has their own distinct color. And I thought it was a very interesting match because I never knew anything like that existed, but it kind of felt very interesting. But however, in this particular match, it went all the way to the end between both RSP and Acticus Coger. Now these two guys are friends, and they're from the same faction, 440, but there can only be one. So Acticus Coger took the only option he has, and he won the match. So he goes home to Cleveland with the title. So I thought it was pretty good. I think this match was pretty good, like especially the concept. But we'll see what happens in the next one. I believe it's called Soon as I Get Home. I think that's what it's called. So let's review that one right now. Okay, now we go to the following day of Circle 6. Soon as I get home, this is, of course, the celebration of our brand new Circle 6 World Champion. Now, everybody from 440 went out to celebrate, including RSP, who was eventually lost the match to Acticus Coger, and I have to say it was a pretty good, interesting celebration. But however, after the celebration, we saw the biggest thing we never expected. RSP turned his back on Acticus Coger, attacked him from behind, had no clue how this happened. RSP just basically turned his back on his best friend. It's wow, I can't even believe it. Now, the story behind about Acticus Coger is that many people have denied him an opportunity to become world champion. So it's more like, okay, you guys don't want me as world champion, then I'll do things my way. So he decided to do this with his own promotion, become world champion. But RSP, as you know, he's driven by winning championships. That's always been the case for him. Even 440 were confused, like they had no clue what the hell is going on. So they went on a searching spree. But here's the bigger problem: every member has a match, either in singles competition or tag competition. But the real question does remain: how 100% focused are they at this point? Well, we'll find out. Now, our first match, we have, of course, Rich Swann making his return, taking on an old friend of his, Jay Christ. I thought the match was pretty good. I think it showed us like, okay, these two guys are familiarized with each other. They know each other all too well. But it was the lights out, the spinning heel kick that sealed the deal for Jay Christ to win the match. So it was like, okay, so Rich Swann lost two matches in a row, but we know he'll do better in the next if he does make another return to Circle Six. Next match, we have Matt Cross versus Eddie Only. Now, I did mention this before. Eddie Only is a member of 440, but the obvious question is how 100% they're at, because they're confused about RSP. Now, I have to say Matt Cross did a pretty good job, even though he's not too worried about Eddie Only, because the only advantage right now that Eddie Only was mostly concerned is how this whole thing with RSP came about. But it could have cost him the match, but there's not 100% certainty. But it was, of course, Matt Cross that won the match. 1, 2, 3 pinfall, over. Next match, we have, of course, the Premier, SK Bishop and Campbell Myers taking on the Midwest Scum, uh, Dread King Logan and Zach Thomas. Now, these guys were the fan favorites of this promotion, but I kind of did not anticipate what the Premier can do. I thought they were like, okay, they can do things good, but however, what led to their the win the match was the fact that they used what's his name? Myers used the tights in order to win the match. Referee did not see that, so they basically stole this one. Now, our next match, we have Gregory Irons taking on Nate Webb. Now, I keep saying this again. Gregory Irons is a member of 440, but the obvious question is how 100% focused is he? That's the key thing about him that we don't know about. Is he 100% focused? That's the obvious thing. But, however, in this case, he seems like he was not being annoyed by Nate Webb, but of course Nate Webb did put him away once and for all, and 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match is Ace Perry and Dale Patrick taking on members of 440 young studs, Bobby Beverly and Eric Ryan. Now, this match, of course, there was some interesting developments to how this goes on. Apparently, there was some good tag team coming from Perry and Dale Patrick. But like I said before, how is 440 dealing after what they just witnessed in the ceremony? Basically, they lost another match. So basically, they're not in good spirits at this point. The fact about RSP doing this. So we'll see what happens then. But it was, of course, a big DDT by Ace Perry to Eric Ryan to win the match. Now, our next match, this is a continuation about what happened the previous day. Kevin Giza gets his little payback against Vincent Nothing. However, this match was more like, okay, Vincent feels that he's being robbed, feels that he was being overlooked by a guy he believes he didn't deserve to be there. That those opportunities should have been his. But the match ended in a disqualification when Vincent decided to shove the referee. Now, you know how the rule is. Don't ever put your hands on the ref or you'll be disqualified. And that's what happened. But however, he declared himself that he's the bigger star than Giza. That Giza is nothing more than a mere loser. But we know that he could have won the match if it wasn't for his incompetence. Next up, we got Cody Lane taking on Zachary Wentz. Now, this is a match that Cody Lane requested. He wanted the best wrestler, so he picked Zachary Wentz. I thought the match was pretty good, but it was the UFO cutter by Zachary Wentz that sealed the deal. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to assume Cody Lane thought he can take on the best. Did not work in his favor. Now our next match is a hardcore match. We have Otis Cogar versus Vinny Massaro. Now keep in mind these guys have been going head to head for quite some time. I thought this was a very good match, and not to mention because Cogar's mom, Otis's mom, got involved, even his wife. But however, it did work in his favor. But it was Otis Cogar with the moonsault on the door on top of Mazzaro that allowed him to win. So basically, he tells him, "Don't ever effing mess with my family ever again." So, pretty good message. Now, our main event is for the Circle 6 World title. Now, obviously, is Acticus Cogar 100%? Now, I have to say he took it like a champ, knowing that he has to put this title on the line regardless of how his condition is. But he seems like he's not in this on his mind, wants to take his frustrations out on Bandito, which was okay. But however, later on in the match, freaking RSP shows up, even though somehow it got sneaked in, causes the match, uh, attacked, nailed Acticus, giving the match up to him, disqualifying Bandito. But of course, 4-0 shows up. But Acticus Cogar is not in his right state of mind. Basically, he doesn't know if he can trust 4-0, knowing that they couldn't even find him. So the obvious question is now 4-0 going to turn on Cogar? Think about it. Ricky Shane Page is the leader of 4-0, but what's going to happen then? Well, we don't know. So we'll find out in the upcoming events of 4-0 and also Circle 6. So I think that's pretty much it. I believe it's time for NWA Powerrr. Okay. NWA Powerrr opened up with Kratos teaming up once again with the Pope to take on uh, Casey Rocks and, well, we know it's Rodney Mack, but what's her name? Velvet Sky calls him, let's call him Question Mac. So basically, along with Aaron Stevens, I thought this match was very interesting because it showed, okay, Kratos and Aaron Stevens still have their little beef going on, but it was, of course, the collaboration and teamwork by Kratos the Pope. It was, of course, Kratos that sealed the deal when he pinned Casey Rocks. However, apparently Aaron Stevens had a different plan and decided to attack both Kratos and Pope to put them out of their misery. But something strange took place. A man wearing a question mark mask showed up. We don't know what this was about. Even Aaron Stevens was confused, like, doesn't know who it is. But later on in the entire show, it did showed who he really is. He says he calls himself Question Mark 2, the brother of the late Question Mark. So basically, he's also from Mongolia. We don't know what's his intentions. Does he feel that he's taking the name Question Mark out of context to his brother? We don't know. So that is a very interesting story. I can't wait to see how this is going to develop because I think many people missed Question Mark. So I think they're trying to see what they can do with that whole thing to elevate it back. Now, we do get, of course, a very interesting interview by Kyle Davis at the podium with Bully Ray. Of course, Bully Ray, we know who's that. But Matt Cardona, oh my God. This little prick thinks that he runs NWA. He thinks nobody cares about him. No one gives a shit about him. That's what he was saying. But Bully Ray told him, he doesn't need to listen to that. But of course, he Matt Cardona set up a match between Bully Ray and a partner of his choosing. So he's gonna have Mike Knox and VSK take care of it. But however, Bully did remind him that he's gonna put Mike Knox through a table. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bully calls his tag team partner Devon to help him out. So we'll see when that day comes. Now, Tom Latimer, on the other hand, he had some interesting questions by May Valentine. One was about EC3, like he's not gonna let this guy get into his head and all this. But of course, right now, his focus was the 10 pounds of gold. But in this scenario, he knows now that his obstacle in this scenario is EC3. But one question May Valentine did throw in because, as you know, his wife Camille is very close. She was trained by Bully Ray, but because Matt Cardona and Mike Knox have been painting Bully Ray as the villain in the story, but Tom Latimer saying, "Look, I know the guy. I feel he's a nice guy." So he's like saying, "I don't know where Matt Cardona is getting all this, or about Bully Ray." but he said that he has the best interests at heart for Camille, so he cannot say no to Bully Ray. But I wouldn't be surprised if he teams up with him, because it would be interesting. Now, our next match, we have Joe Alonzo taking on Zion. Now, Alonzo was pissed a week ago about questioning why did this match didn't turn for the national championship. Well, the reasons behind this, he did not earn it. Basically, he felt like you haven't contributed anything over since then. But I have to say, Joe Alonzo seemed like he had everything under control in this match, but it was, of course, the Death Valley driver that sealed the deal for Zion, even if he hurt his leg completely. But it just showed to show that Zion is a fighting champion regardless. And even though, good thing he has his dad by his side. Now, we do get an interview with Maddie Valentine, this time with Ricky Steamboat and all this and that, about plans that he's planning to do about championship status and all this. Rolando Freeman shows up saying that he beat Matt Cardona, and of course, Ricky Steamboat's like, "Who are you?" So basically, Steamboat was not, I don't know if he knows about him or he just playing with him, I don't know, but we'll see. Now, our next match is a very interesting one. It started out as a six-woman tag match. We have Max the Impaler, um, Angelina Love, and Natalia Markova taking on Pretty Empower, which is Ella Envy and Kenzie Page, along with Roxy. Now, the match will continue on once one team is eliminated, and it becomes an elimination match. So this match was interesting because, however, I knew this was going to happen. Pretty Empowered ditched Roxy and got fed by the Wolves, well, mostly from Max. And then, of course, it turned into a three-way elimination match. Natalia Markova was able to eliminate Angelina Love, but however, things got a little intense between Max the Impaler and, of course, Natalia Markova. Now, this part of the Queen Bee match, which is a little crown tiara that Natalia Markova is so proud of, the ref had no other choice but to call this match into a no contest, realizing there was no stoppage. But, of course, Max the Impaler grabbed the tiara, wore it on her head, and then she smashed it with her foot. So basically, sending a clear message. Now, our next interview was with, of course, Trevor Murdoch. Talks about certain things as a champ, that he's looking into the future and all this other stuff. I thought it was pretty interesting. But there is something else later brought upon. As you know, Tyrus is the current world television champion. Now, if you remember correctly, the world television champion, if you were able to win 7 matches in a row, if you can cash it in and get a shot of the 10 pounds of gold. Now, Murdoch did say Tyrus does have the right to do that. He does have a right to cash it in if he wants. Now, the reason he did not cash it in earlier was because he thought he's going to carry 2 titles around his waist and around on both arms. But frankly, he lost to Murdoch in NWA 74, so basically he has no other choice but to do so. But he also says, about Matt Cardona, that he's going to deal with him sooner or later. But Matt Cardona, he's been trying to claim that he has an opportunity for the 10 pounds of gold. But if I were him, don't interrupt in one of his matches. Now, our main event is for the NWA World Television title. We have Nims versus Tyrus. Now, Nims was the winner for a shot of this title, knowing that he actually did the Power Slam challenge on Tyrus and all this and that. But, however, he slammed him once again. I thought it was a good move, but it was the hard punch that sealed the deal for Tyrus to win the match and retain it. But he doesn't seem like he's happy, because the one thing he wants, one thing he desires, is the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So basically, we will know soon enough if he will cash in the NWA World Television title. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's move on with AEW Dark. Okay, AEW Dark opened up with Pelana before taking on Alice Cromwell. Now, as you know, this is we've been seeing Penelope Ford come around ever since returning from her little injury, and of course we've been seeing her husband Kip Sabian on the ring side, where the fans are at, wearing that box of his. But I thought she looks more like she's still in good shape. But of course, she finished this matchup by applying the Mudo lock onto Alice Cromwell. 1-2. It was, of course, she had to tap out. No other choice. Now, our next match, we have the Wingmen Caesar Bononi and Ryan Meneth taking on Matt Sydal and Dante Martin. Now, I thought this was a very interesting matchup because if you look at it this way, you got Caesar Bononi, the biggest individual in the match. He could be the common thread. However, the only main weapons that both Matt Sydal, and Dante Martin have is their speed. Basically, they have to go outside the box. But they were able to turn certain rounds where there was misfires coming from the wingmen. But it was Dante Martin who sealed the deal thanks to the maneuver by Matt Sydal for Dante Martin to apply the nosedive. 1, 2, 3. It won, and he won. Now, we did see a little interview, sort of like an interview that took place in Hikaru Shida's dressing room. Apparently, Rebel comes out, and here comes Britt Baker. Turns out they attacked Hikaru Shida. The reason behind that is because, as you saw what happened in All Out, Jamie Hayter was upset that Britt Baker stole her moment. She was this close of winning the match in All Out. Now, Britt Baker tried to reason with her, but she wasn't going to have it. So instead of saying, if I can't have my tag partner of choice, well, Toni Storm, you can't have yours. Now, of course, there are those who are saying that maybe this whole thing was being set up because, as you know, Hikaru Shida is booked to wrestle outside of the U.S. Most specifically, she freelances in Japan. Like, she's not in like Stardom or anything else. She makes appearances at Tokyo Pro, Ice Ribbon, Pro Wrestling Wave. As you know, she is the current Regina the Wave champion. So that would make sense why they took her out. But later it was reported that Athena has stepped up to be her tag partner, while of course Serena D becomes Britt Baker's partner. Now, our next match, we have Diamante and Emi Sakura along with Balinaki. As you know, I want to keep this on note. Balinaki has returned to Japan, in case if you're wondering, because this coming Thursday is a big moment for Got to Move, and we will get to that one on the day of that event. But however, the match was pretty good. However, in this one, since they were in Chicago, this seems fitting for their opponent. One of the opponents is Sky Blue, and her tag partner is Queen Aminata. But it was, of course, the flatliner by Sky Blue onto the Sakura to seal the deal, making her, of course, the winner of the match, because everybody loves Sky Blue in Chicago. Now, our next match, we have Peter Avalon taking on Danhausen. I thought this match was really interesting. Of course, Danhausen cursed Peter Avalon, and he put him in the something umatami, I think what they call it. I can't pronounce it right, but he actually made Peter Avalon tap out, won the match. But he also was delusional, thinking he won the world title, but nope. So now our main event. This was a very interesting matchup. We have Angelico taking on Matt Hardy. Now keep in mind, Angelico was part of the Hardy family office. This was more like a pretty interesting match. However, the only thing that Matt Hardy had to be concerned is the submission Navarro lock by Angelico. It did not work on him. Basically, he ended up on the wrong side of the twist of fate. 1, 2, 3, Matt Hardy won. I would have assumed that Private Party was going to come out, but nope, it did not happen. So we'll see what happens down the line in the future between these individuals when they come across each other. So I think that's pretty much it with the AEW Dark. So let's move on with the last thing, NXT 2.0. Okay, NXT 2.0 celebrating their first year anniversary. Now, if you guys remember clearly, this is where, of course, they shifted from the old NXT brand all the way to the new one. That kind of we all criticized it for a little bit. Now I want to be fair with all. I have to say they have done some good job, even when Triple H was not in charge. But I have to say this was a pretty good show. Now, we opened up with the NXT Tag Team titles in a steel cage match, which is stipulation the fans voted, and to be fair, I voted for that. But of course, this is something that we know that Pretty Deadly did not anticipate, but this is, of course, something that I'm sure Diamond Mine wouldn't mind. However, as you know, the only reason these guys are catching in now for the rematch was because of what happened at Heatwave, where of course Damon Kemp betrayed them, and all this other stuff. Now, I have to say there were some impressive moments. I mean, pulling back Pretty Deadly to ensure they just retain the titles. But at some point, we did witness Damon Kemp handcuffed Julian, in order to ensure Pretty Deadly win the match. But however, one thing that was impressive, much like we've seen before with the Creed brothers, is they had, if you guys remember that gauntlet match, that was a pretty amazing moment. But seeing Brutus doing things his way was amazing. I thought that he was doing great, but however, they tried the spilled milk twice until finally they retained the titles. But however, I think right now during the interview, I think the Creed brothers realize right now if they want to get those titles back, they have to deal with the traitor himself, which is none other than David Kemp. Now, many fans have tried to vote who will be the one to challenge Carmelo Hayes for the North American title, and we all voted for Wesley. And of course, the runner-ups was Von Wagner and Joe Gacy. But however, because of this, Carmelo Hayes, he did not want to challenge him. He thinks that he doesn't have what it takes to be in the same level as him. So he took him out in his dressing room along with that piece of garbage, Trick Williams. Now, we see a pretty good match between Lash Legend and Fallon Henley. Now, keep in mind, Fallon Henley had dealt with Lash Legend too many times. Lash Legend, who's claiming it's all about her. She thought she had it her way, but no, she did an amazing. Fallon Henley did an amazing kick right in her face in order to pick up a good win. I thought it was great. Now, sad news for many people. Ulyssa Leon has announced that she will be out of action for 9 months. So Sanga, who is being like a good coach, a friend, is telling Valentina Feroz that she has to step up, knowing that she's on her own. She has to step up no matter what. But of course, someone had to rein in on their parade. Von Wagner, who is bitter, knowing he did not get the opportunity for the North American title. But Sanga was not going to let this moment ruin the, of course, Ulyssa, being out of action, and Valentina has to step up no matter what. Now, we do get the toxic attraction claiming that after 1 year they meant everything, that everything will be theirs, as saying that they're here and everyone else is down here. But however, Alba Fire, who's been the forever champion longer than, of course, Mandy Rhodes, is now making her shot that she wants the NXT Women's title, and she whacked everyone with the baseball bat, and of course put Mandy Rose in the gory bomb. So the obvious question is, can Mandy Rose deal with it? However, she can say all she wants that she beats her, because every time, every opponent that Mandy Rose had beat, she's thought, it's over, you're not beating me. Why you guys are keep going? They don't understand. They're not going to stop until one of them dethrones her. That's how it works. Now, Cora Jade, as you know, saying this is all about her, talks about Roxanne, Nikki Lyons, Zoe Starks, including Wendy Chu. So that kind of goes on in its way. But however, Wendy Chu saying she's gone to Cuckoo's Nest, that she's just jealous of Roxanne, and of course possibly that's it. And of course, once again, Lash Legend makes it all about her, but Wendy Chu's not gonna let that crap get to her. But she did tell her she put a big woman, put her lights out, and we all know who that is. That is Tiffany Stratton. Now we do get the NXT 2.0 debut of Quince Elliot taking on Sean Gallagher. Now, Wade Barrett doesn't know what to make of this. I thought it was interesting, of course. But the one thing it did end it is how, if you guys ever seen Yokozuna, how he finishes his opponents when he pancakes them. That was the same thing what Quincy Jones did it, but he does it in his own way. And I thought it was great. Now, this particular match was set, Cameron Grimes was going to face the D'Angelo family members, Tony D and Stacks. However, he had no tag partner, but he made it perfectly clear that he was going to go alone. Now, this was a suicide mission, on my opinion, for this. But, however, the match went into a different direction. Joe Gacy showed up. Now, Joe Gacy has been trying to persuade Cameron Grimes, saying, I can save you. But Cameron Grimes doesn't need to be saving. He knows what he's going through, but the problem is Joe Gacy thinks he understands him. So basically, Joe Gacy tagged himself in despite that Cameron Grimes tried to avoid him. But it was Joe Gacy that picked up the win. Cameron Grimes refuses to embrace the schism, but they beat him down into the ground. Now, Braun Breaker has this very interesting development about talking what has it been like for almost him being a year in NXT, talk about the losses he has, the lessons he learned from his mistakes, the challengers he had to go through as champion, and of course the proudest moments was of course his dad and his uncle inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So that kind of sets out a pretty good way. Now Tyler Bate, as you know, has been watching, but he does want to have another one-on-one match against Braun Breaker. So that is clear. But however, he knows the one person that stands in his way is JD McDonough, who attacked him last week. Now our next match, we have Nikita Lyons and Zoe Starks, who have been coming so tight and good at the tag team, taking on Kiana James and Ariana James Grace, who believes that these two ladies are nothing but a problem. That of course Kiana James thought that her brains could eliminate both, and of course it did not work. I like the combination between both Starks and Nikki Lyons because they seem like a good team, dominating team. I wouldn't be surprised if those two team up for the NXT tag team titles. Now, as you know, what's been going on for the winner of the year, Malik Blade and Edris Enofe were being told to vote for Cameron Grimes, but Malik Blade and Enofe are not going to vote for him after what they did to Cameron Grimes. But the dyad refuses to accept it, so it went into a fight. But we'll see what happens. But that's only a different story. Hopefully, I would like to see Cameron Grimes team up with Blade and Enofe. Now, the winner for the year of NXT Wrestler of the Year of that, it turned out to be Braun Breaker. Grayson Waller thought he was the one who was going to win it, but he's so cocky. He thinks that the WWE Universe doesn't know jack about anything. But that's how it goes. Now, our interesting match, we have Javier and Bernal, who's been berating Hank Walker, the security guy, for a while, trying to put him in his place. So he ended up in a match, but I have to say, Hank Walker was very impressive as a powerhouse wrestler, and I think that was a good thing. But he did manage to pick up an upset against Javier Bernal. Now, there was an exclusive content that showed where, of course, the security team were happy for Hank for winning. But, however, he gets a prize, and that prize is an NXT contract, but none other than the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And Javier Bernal once again tries to say you're nothing but a loser. Shawn Michaels goes, what a prick. So they laughed at Bernal, and of course, Walker signed his contract, and that's it. I hate to see Bernal cannot believe that Shawn Michaels sides with Hank Walker. So I thought it was pretty fun. Now, as you know, Wesley was attacked by Carmelo Hayes to ensure he doesn't have to challenge him one way or the other. But the one thing that was surprising was the return of Solo Sikoa. Now keep in mind, Solo Sikoa did say, I am next. But the obvious question does remain is this. Was this the marching orders from the tribal chief himself, Roman Reigns? I don't know. But that was the biggest thought. Even commentators question about that. If if of course Solo Sikoa wins this match, this this title will be now part of the bloodline, and I think that's gonna set up. But I think right now for Carmelo, he really made things a lot worse. He thought that he got rid of his threat, which was Wesley. He should have known this was gonna happen. But of course, the X factor in the match was Trick Williams, but luckily Sikoa took him out, and of course he applied the winning when he did a splash onto Carmelo Hayes, becoming the new NXT North American title. Now the obvious question is this title going to be going to SmackDown? We don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised that of course Carmelo Hayes will be complaining about the whole thing. That is something that's going to bite him in the ass, one way or the other. But the good thing is, after this show, we saw a clip of the entire year of NXT 2.0, and guess what happened? The return of the black and gold brand. But the logo remains the same how it is now. But the only thing they changed back was the color black and gold. And of course, the 2.0 is out. Now, someone put this is 1.5. We don't know that. But I think for me, I felt that the biggest NXT we enjoy is the black and gold, and I think that's a good thing for us. And I think it's great that it's back. I can't wait to see what else is going to happen next week. Now it's called just NXT, so we'll see what happens then. So right now, let's move on to our last thing we're going to do. This is going to be the longest one for me to do: news updates. Okay, news updates. First things first, I want to give congratulations to Dakota Runnels. Now, if you guys don't know who she is, Dakota Runnels is the daughter of the natural Dustin Rhodes and his ex-wife Terry Runnels. You remember her the manager. Turns out that Dakota Runnels is in fact pregnant with her first child. She and her new husband has announced on their Twitter page that they're expecting a bun in the oven by March 2023. I thought I'm like happy for them, and of course now we have to call Dustin Rhodes Grandpa. So congratulations, Grandpa. Now moving on. If you guys know this or not, I mentioned this with Joan Kiona about she'll be making her return to Jersey Championship Wrestling, or JCW. Apparently, it's already been announced it's going to take place on October 9th, and this event's going to call JCW versus the World. Now, it's still unclear what match is going to take place, but we do know that Jungle Kiona will be involved. There's still no indication who her opponent's going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be something very cool, but we'll find out soon enough. Now, if you guys been aware recently, if you saw this on Twitter, that someone posted a tweet about Matt Jackson. As you know, there was a video posted of him being in the pool with spending time with his son, and this was on the tweet that I'm not sure if this is legit. Let me pull it up real quick. This is from says a quick message. After the incident, I will not be surprised if the Young Bucks are taking a break from social media. Matt's biggest fear is seeing his baby brother get hurt, not be able to do anything. The fear became a reality this past week. They need time. So I think the obvious question is this that we are saying to ourselves. Right now, we don't know much about what happened, but we do know that Nick Jackson was hurt. He was badly hurt by a chair. So basically, it seems that there's talk about, okay, he's going to wait till his brother gets back. But however, relation to this, the Bucks has announced recently that the whole thing with the feelers was not true. So basically, they spoke out to Dave Meltzer. It's still unclear much, but they're saying that the whole thing was untrue. Now, some people are saying, come on, we know that's going to happen. They'd send out feelers. The problem is, we're hearing a lot of things. People presume, WWE loyalists presume that they're going to WWE. That's the thing that's going on. So we don't know much. However, we do know now that the investigation over this incident is going to take a lot longer than we expected. But they are taking the legal team in AEW are looking into this situation uh, carefully and hopefully getting to the bottom of how this whole thing came about. Now, moving on, Wrestling Revolver announced for their upcoming event later on this month, Tales from the Ring, on the 17th of September. We're going to have the Impact World Championship on the line. Josh Alexander will be facing one called Vanders. This is going to be a very interesting matchup to see. Now, two things as announced by Warrior Wrestling for Warrior Wrestling 25. Eddie Kingston will be actually appearing in Warrior Wrestling, which is going to be good. However, there was supposed to be a match between the Briscoes and the Lucha Brothers, but apparently they've been consulting with AEW and other organizations about this. It turns out they're not going to have this tag match. They're going to have both Lucha Brothers and Briscoes uh, be on separate matches, so one-on-one at each side. So I don't know what was the situation, but hopefully it can be resolved. Now, as you know, we have the next upcoming was it a Prestige Wrestling fight. We do know they announced for the card about what matches is going to take place. So this is what's going to take place for the upcoming Prestige Wrestling events. What's it called? Perseverance. Here's what they have. We have Malachi Black versus Kid Bandit. Now that is strange, but we'll see if that really does come about. We have Maki Ito facing off Sandra Moon. The IWTV Championship, AC Mack versus Sonico. Trish Adora versus Miyu Yamashita. Team Filthy versus 440. Taya Valkyrie versus Dark Sheik. Alan Angels versus Tyler Bate. Jordan Cruz versus Robert Martin. And they will throw in an old match from the recently back in February with Alex Shelley putting the Prestige Championship on the line. So that is something we will be seeing there as well. Now, there's this thing that came out on Hangman's page, on his Instagram page, and it was shared by many fans about it. So let's see this is what he posted. After you get famous, you stop growing. You don't have to. After being even a small part of a movement with the elite and subsequent falling out was I was afraid of stagnation. I was happy, fulfilled, and getting good at paychecks, but without anyone to push me further. During Brody Lee's illness, I was scared to move forward with these guys, but we all still felt it was the right thing to do. I could never say enough all about the Dark Order. John's jokes effortlessly turned a bad day into a hilarious one. Alex is a dad friend. Our sons were born 5 days apart. And it's been a grounding to have someone on the same ride as me. Uno self-prescate in a way I can relate to. Only wish he saw himself what I seen him. 10 for working tirelessly covering for my sorry ass at the latest possible notice. And I would for never hesitate to get in a good dick joke and be one of the boys. Stu for never being complacent with his spot and always wanting more. 5 for overcoming having such a small penis and never had and gaining the confidence to bet on himself in a way I have never had to. Colt for being a fountain of wisdom and saying to me the most self-affirming words I've ever heard. I owe a lot of my career to Matt, Nick, Kenny, as I owe much to these guys too. Thank you for helping me continue to grow. So we don't know what that means, but some people think that he is quitting or that, but I'm going to presume that possibly he may be taking a break maybe stepping away for a little while. We don't know. He did this before last year, before becoming the AEW World Champion. So hopefully we will find out more what's been going on with Hangman Page. Now, House of Glory has announced for the upcoming event Genesis later on this month on the 24th. Penta El Cero Miedo will be making his return. Now, still unclear whether he'll be in a match or be doing something else. Now, for the GCW news updates we've been getting, as you know, we know that GCW will be doing a 3-day tour in Tokyo, Japan. All three of their shows will be taking the same place, same venue. Now, on the Monday, the 24th of September, is going to be Planet Death. Tuesday, the 27th, will be DOA, Dead on Arrival. And then finally, October 4th, War Ready. Now, however, it was announced for the one of the events on Dead or Arrival, a match has been set. We're going to have the Strong Hearts, Shima, T-Hawk, and El Lindaman taking on Joey Janela, Nick Wayne, and Jordan Oliver. And that's going to be on the DOA event. However, more on GCW was announced that for the Fight Club on night 1, Rina Yamashita, night 2, we're going to have Nick Wayne taking on Dragon Gate wrestler Shun Skywalker. Now, this is going to be interesting. And on night 2, Rina Yamashita will put her Ultraviolet title on the line against Cyclops. That's going to be interesting. Also on relations, we have Riho, Riho has it was announced by DDT English Twitter page that Riho will be making her appearance at Wrestle Princess 3, which is the upcoming big event by Tokyo Pro later on in October. Now, Pro Wrestling Noah has announced that Yuya Suzumu will be out for the next 4 events due to a severus sprain. So basically, he's injured and all that. So we don't know much about it, but hopefully he recovers soon. Now, for those who are Matt Cardona fans, it was announced by his Twitter page he will be making a tour in the UK. First he'll be making a stop at TNT Extreme Wrestling at Supreme Extreme on the 16th of September. He'll be facing Man Like the Rest. Then he'll go to GCW Liverpool on the 16th as well to take on Matt Kurt. Following day, he'll be returning back to DDT Wrestling Extreme Wrestling for the TNT World Heavyweight Championship against Dan Maloney, and then finally Progress Wrestling for Chapter 141 Handshakes and Cheeseburger to take on Gene Mooney. So basically, he'll be making this tour. I don't know if he'll be winning the TNT World Championship, but we'll see what happens then. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it what we got with the news updates. I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, hope we got AEW Dynamite. As you know, we continue with more of the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions. We have Jon Moxley versus Sammy Guevara, and of course, Chris Jericho versus Daniel Bryanson. So we will be seeing who will be advancing. If there's any other events I'm going to be posting before that, I still haven't seen the latest GCW events, but I will be getting to that soon enough. But as of right now, I believe I'll just wing it for the next episode. So I think that's pretty much it right now. So I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.